Lamont had come out to California on a business trip, and he ran into Mary Wilson at a party. And she told him that Jean Terrell was just leaving the Supremes and they were looking for a new lead singer. And did he have any suggestions? So right away, he suggested me because at that time I was his girlfriend. And so Mary called, gave her my number. She called and we spoke. I think it was like on a Sunday or something. And she asked, she knew Frida. She was excited because at first she thought it was Frida. He said, no, Frida's sister, Scherrie. And so anyway, we spoke. And so she asked if I would send like pictures and recordings. So I sent her a copy of the album. I FedExed it, uh, pictures of myself, uh, the album, I think a couple of albums. And so I guess she got it on Wednesday or whatever, or Thursday. And so that Thursday, I was over at my best friend's house, Walter and Barbara Gaines. Walter was a member of the group The Originals, and they were my best friends. And so Lamont and I were over there, and my mother called and said, Mary Wilson just called you. I said, oh, wow. And she wants you to call her right away. And Barb said, go ahead, make the long distance call on our phone. I said, okay. So they're all gathered around the phone. And so Mary said she had received the album and the pictures, and she loved what she saw and heard and wanted me to come out to Los Angeles. I said, oh, okay. Well, when? Now, this is Thursday evening. She said, Saturday. I said, Saturday? She said, yeah, I already got your plane ticket and it's at the airport, Detroit Metropolitan Airport, Saturday morning. I said, oh my goodness. I said, okay. And so then I hung up and everybody started yelling and screaming and hugging me and so happy. And I was like spellbound. And so when Lamont took me home and I came in the door, I told my mother, and then I said, Mama, I said, the Supremes, that's too big. I can't do it. I can't do it. So my mother gave me that mother pep talk like mothers will do. And my mother was a very supportive of us and a real go-getter, very smart woman. But anyway, she said, yes, you can, blah, 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 blah. So that Saturday morning, Walter's brother, Herbert Gaines, picked me up and took me to the airport. And I got on the plane, came to Los Angeles, and Cindy Birdsong and her husband at that time, Charles Hewitt, picked me up at the airport. And we went straight to Mary Wilson's house, suitcases and all. And we started rehearsals. I didn't know that they had a gig the following Saturday at the New Mexico State Fair. And I said, oh my goodness, I had all this stuff to learn. Now, I'm not really good with lyrics. Now, say Linda Lawrence, she knows lyrics to every song there is probably, but I knew the Supreme songs, but I didn't know like to sing them all the way through. So Mary said, well, I'll take a couple of the leads to take the weight off of you. But so we start rehearsing right then and there. And then I went to Frida's apartment, lived on Hollywood and La Brea. And, but anyway, we rehearsed every day. And then that Friday we left for the state fair, and which was Saturday. And so as we were going into the backstage area of the tent of the state fair, I remember everybody yelling and screaming, Mary, 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 Cindy, Cindy. Then he said, Diana, Diana. I thought, I'm not Diana. I thought I was Diana Ross. Mary said, if you, and there, Bill Loeb was the manager at that time. And he said, if you, do a great job, you got it, girl. And so I remember, I think it was Donny Hathaway, he was on the bill with us. Donny Hathaway, yeah. And so we did the show, went through it. And afterwards, they ran and hugged me. And they said, girl, welcome, welcome. You got it. You're a Supreme. And I thought, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. So I couldn't wait to call my mother and tell her that now I'm a Supreme. And that was it. History repeating.
Welcome back to History Repeating. As you heard in the beginning, only about 2 weeks had passed between Scherrie first being considered to be a Supreme and then performing her very first official show with Mary and Cindy. That first show at the State Fair is something that Scherrie will never forget.
And I guess I didn't even have a chance to get nervous. I was just, I don't know if it was by rote, but I just went through it. I just went through it. And Lord, let me do a great job. Let me not disappoint anyone. And he set me through it. He was with me all the way.
The Supremes ended in 1977, But when a reunion tour was planned for the year 2000, fans had hoped for a full and proper reunion. Although Scherrie was selected to perform alongside Linda Lawrence and Diana Ross on the Return to Love tour, she believed that all the Supremes, Mary Wilson, Cindy Birdsong, Jean Terrell, and Suze Green, should have been a part of the tour.
Gosh, I was stunned. In fact, I was on the phone, I think, talking to Susse. And then I think we hung up, and then Scott Sander called me, Scott Sanders, and he introduced himself and said that they were doing this tour. Dinah was doing this tour, and I was recommended. And I thought, oh wow, me? Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. And so I thought I would be singing along with, Mary and Cindy, Diana, but I would be like maybe backstage on the side, adding a third harmony. And so then later on, my next door neighbor was an attorney at that time, entertainment attorney, and I told her about it. And because I even mentioned, I said, what about the other Supremes? I was just talking with Susse Green when you called me. And he said, well, who are they? I said, well, there's Jean Terrell, Linda Lawrence, and Susse Green. And he said, oh, I said, well, it'd be great if they could be in it. And so my next door neighbor, Evan, she said, why did you bring them up? That would be less for you. I said, no, it should be all of us. That would be great. So later on that night, Scott called me back and he said, I ran that idea by Diane about having all of you ladies. And she thought it was a great idea. I said, oh, wow. I said, okay. And so the next morning he called and asked for their numbers. So I gave them all their numbers. And then I asked, can I call them first to tell the news? Anyway, so we were all going to go to New York that following Tuesday. This was a Friday. We are all supposed to go to New York the following Tuesday, and we decided we'd all what we were going to wear, black bottoms and white tops and stuff. And that early that morning, I get a call from the travel agent, like 5 o'clock in the morning, that there was a huge storm in New York, and JF Kennedy Airport was closed, so we couldn't fly out. And then after that, everything just sort of fell apart. And as they say, the train has left the station. And so the way Linda and I were chosen, um, I guess Diana, she hadn't seen us in a long time, so she wanted to just get an idea of who we were. And so we went and on camera and did a little talking and answering some questions and blah, 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 blah. And then she decided on Linda and me, I guess because Linda and I had been working together already. And she had seen that. So that's how Linda and I were chosen. And they were still negotiating, I think, with Mary and Cindy. But she said, Mary's under the impression that I'm making all this money, but I'm not. And it's not what she's been told. But she said, all she has to do is just have her suitcases ready and be at the airport, and we can do this thing. But by the time, and Mary's manager at the time admitted later on, he said, yeah, it was my fault. By the time we decided, they said the train has left the station. So anyway, that's how it was. But it should have been all of us.
While the Supremes ended in 1977, Scherrie continues to perform as a part of the Flows, the former ladies of the Supremes. The group was originally formed in the 80s and continues strong to this day.
Jean Terrell, Cindy Birdsong, and myself. And then after a few months, Cindy decided she wanted to concentrate on her evangelizing. And so she left the group. And so Jean said, well, I can call up Linda Lawrence, because I didn't know Linda's number or anything. So Jean called up Linda and we met, and the rest is history.
Scherrie has been a part of the Flows since its inception, but the current lineup also features Suze Green and Joyce Vincent Wilson of Tony, Orlando, and Dawn. Joyce joining the group is something many fans have looked forward to, as she originally was supposed to join back in 1977.
All these years later, 40 years later, because back in 77, when Mary decided to leave and do her solo thing, and we were just devastated. And so that's when we decided, well, let's continue the group and get a third person as the Supremes. And so we auditioned different ladies, and even I think LaToya Jackson. But then I told Susay about my dear friend Joyce Vincent. I'd known her since '68 at Invictus Records, she and her sister Pam. And so we had lunch, and Susay loved her. So we said, Joyce is our lady. And so then the edict came down from somebody at Motown who said, since there's no original member in the group anymore, they're just going to retire the name The Supremes. So that's when I said, oh, well, sorry, Joyce. And that's when we had the idea, Suzanne DePass, of us, Susay and I, doing our original songs. And Susay is the one who came up with the title Partners for the album. But that was what, 1978, I think. And so like almost 40 years later, 78 to, I think Joyce came with us in 2009. All these years later, Joyce is with us. It was me, Joyce, and Linda. And then when Linda decided to retire from the group, that was in 2000. Oh my gosh, the 2017. I'm trying to think, and that's when Susay came in. Yeah, so
Currently, the Flows are still active, and between that and her own projects, Scherrie is still busy in the industry.
well, Eric Iverson has, he's so great. I just love him. He and Will Norman, and Linda and Joyce and I plan on doing on something. I think it's in April in Dallas, a special request. That's why Linda and Joyce and I will be doing this man who loved Tony Orlando and Don, and he loved he wanted the two Supremes who were with Diana. So we'll do a show for him. But Susay and Joyce and I will be doing something. I'm trying to think. I think in June, there's some dates coming in. You know, the pandemic did so much. It cut off so much work for not just us, but so many entertainers. And so it's starting to slowly come back. And maybe even Linda and I might do something together, do a duet show. We're both singing. And I know Susay does her own thing as well. And but so we've got things on the books coming up.
Scherrie also continues to release new music, such as 2023's Losing My Mind. But she's also still writing music, plays, and screenplays. So stay tuned for our final episode with Scherrie to find out what song inspired her musical and play 10 Good Years.